To make an animated character out of shaped layers, there's a very simple rigging process. I'm going to start with a rectangle for the body, and always remember before you do your keyframing to move your anchor points. So I'm going to snap this to the center by holding down Command or Control, and I use the pan behind tool to move my anchor point. So I'm going to rename this by clicking on the layer name. Naming all your layers is an easy way of not getting confused when you do more complex animations. I'm going to make sure everything is deselected so that when I draw my next shape, I don't add it to this layer. And I'm going to use curves for this, just so that you can see how this effect works much more easily. Normally, if you did straight points, you get a more realistic bend because the way the human arm goes, it moves at the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist, not in between. So I'm going to click the word fill to get rid of the fill by hitting the no fill button. And I'm going to give this a stroke that's large enough for you to be able to see. So this purple will be the shirt of my character. The skin color for my character, so this is going to be the skin color. And I've got my 2 points where it's meeting the shoulder and right there. I'm going to name this left arm. Okay, now here's where the important part comes in. I'm going to use this one arm shape. I'm going to duplicate it several times to make a sleeve, a shoulder joint, and some stripes along the sleeve. And in order to get all those to react when the skin of the arm moves, so I'm going to twirl down my contents of my left arm, and I've got this one shape. I'm going to rename this one skin. This is the most crucial part. I'm going to add a keyframe to the path of the skin, which is really the bottom-most layer. Everything else is going to go above it in this stack. So whatever you're drawing, whatever's on the bottom is what you're going to link everything to. So with the skin selected in the contents of the arm, I'm going to press Command D or Control D, and that's going to duplicate it. I'm going to rename the duplicate sleeve. And the first thing I'm going to do and get rid of the duplicate keyframe. I'm going to keep this keyframe in the bottom layer, what I named skin, because everything is going to be expression pickwhipped to that. So I've got my sleeve, and I'm going to make it the same color as the shirt by using the eyedropper and clicking on the shirt. I have to have my selection arrow for all these changes. So you see the sleeve is the same length as the arm. And to shorten that, I click on the sleeve, the add button over here or up at the top, because I've got my shape layer selected. So now I can get my add button. And I'm going to add a trim path. This is the start point of the path. This is the end point of the path. I clicked here first, I clicked here second. So I'm going to adjust the end. And I can make the sleeve however long I want by adjusting the end. And I'm going to make this about a 3/4 length sleeve because I'm going to add some stripes to it. Now, before I make any more duplicates of this layer, I'm going to go to the path of the sleeve, which is the duplicate of the skin. I removed the keyframe from the path, but I still have it in the original. Whatever's on the bottom is what you're going to use your keyframe, and as you build your layers over top of it, you will use the expression and pickwhip them to this initial keyframe of what layer's on the bottom. And for this, it's skin. This will go for any type of animating you do where you're duplicating the layers. So I'm going to Alt or Option click on the path of the sleeve and grab my pickwhip right here and just drag it to the word path down here in my skin layer. Now to test this out, if I move the skin layer, the sleeve will move with it. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, I'm going to click on the end anchor point, and I'm just going to change its handle. And you can see the sleeve is now moving. So that means every duplicate of the sleeve, since this expression is already put on it, will apply to it. So you could do this for like striped snakes, or whatever you want to animate by starting with one layer on the bottom, duplicating it up along, and everything being expression pickwhipped to this path. When this path is changed, everything parented to it will change with it. So I'm going to duplicate the sleeve. First, I want a rounded edge here for where the shoulder is. I'm going to grab this sleeve and go to my stroke. I'm going to change the butt cap to a round cap. And you'll see this is round here, but it's round here too, which will give me a smoother animation. I'm going to fix this in a moment. I'm actually going to rename this shoulder, duplicate the shoulder, put it below it in the stack, and rename this shoulder sleeve right here. Now it's out of it. So the shoulder's on top. And this has a rounded edge. I'm going to my sleeve, and I want a hard edge here. instead of that weird round part. So I'm going to adjust my stroke for the sleeve and make it a butt cap. And I'm going to adjust the trim path of my shoulder. Now when I shorten this, you see the shoulder right here, it's red. I'm going to make it about 2%. So now this has a round joint here and a butt joint here, the way a sleeve would end. And remember, everything now is parented with the expression to this path. So I'm going to duplicate the sleeve, and I'm going to call this one sleeve stripes. And I'm going to make the color of the sleeve stripes something that'll stand out. I'll just make it green, just so we can see it easily. And you can see this is where the shoulder joint is meeting up. I'm going to go to my stroke. I'm going to click the plus by dashes. Now I've got stripes. And I can change the offset of them if I want to make them line up however I like. And I can also change the number of dashes to make it however fine I want. I'll go some nice broad stripes like that. And now I'm going to adjust that shoulder if possible. I'm going to go to my trim path. I'm going to make it 1. And now it's a little smaller. There we go. And I moved the offset of the stripes so it's no longer interfering with the shoulder joint. So this is my first arm. I've got the lowest layer, the skin. Then the layer on top of that is the sleeve. The layer on top of that is the stripes. And the layer on top of that is the round joint of the shoulder. And all that is inside the left arm. And whenever I move the path of the lowest layer, the skin, every layer parented to it will respond. As you can see, wherever I move my arm, the rest of it will go with it and react to how the path handles are going. I'm going to make my shoulder a little thicker than the rest of it, just so that I can get rid of that little green that's overlapping it. I can duplicate this left arm. I just press Command D. It's the topmost layer. And I'm going to rename this right arm. If I just move this over, I will have a mirrored animation. But if I want to change that, I press Scale. If I do -100, it will flip my image like such. So now I can have different motion. When I move the right arm, watch what happens. The left arm stays the way it was because everything in the right arm is parented individually to the layer inside it. So when I duplicate the original, it's not going to affect the rest of the animation. It's just affecting what is linked in this layer. So I can move these independently. As you see, it doesn't affect the other one. I'm going to fix my anchor points. Now that's much better. Now I've got my arms. I'm going to do the hips. This is 165.9. I'm going to make it a round number, 165. All right, so it's 165 wide. I'm going to deselect everything. And I'm going to draw a circle. I'm actually going to make the fill the same color as the stripes, just so that the shorts or pants, whatever you want to call them. Okay, now I know this is 165 wide, so that means this circle, I want it to be the same width on the ellipse path, 165 by 165. Line that up about there. I'm going to call this hips, and I'm going to put it beneath the torso. I'm going to duplicate the arms. Now, since they're both still selected, I can drag them above the other arms so that they stay together. I'm going to rename these legs. So I select them both, and I'm just using the arrow keys on my keyboard to move them to about where they would be here. So here's my sleeve and the sleeve stripes. If I want to put these down at the bottom as socks, I'm going to open up my sleeve stripes, and I'm going to click this button right here. This is going to reverse the path. So now it's going from this direction up. So now it's almost as if they were leg warmers. I'm going to do the same thing for the one above it. I'm going to go to the stripes, and I'm going to reverse the path so that they're down there now. I could make this a long sock. I'm going to duplicate the stripes, and the bottom one, I'm going to get rid of the dash because this will be the bottom, the stripes will be on top. So I'm going to go to the stroke, turn the dashes off, and give this a solid fill. You can't really see the stripes, so I'm going to make them a little darker. There we go. And if I want, I could adjust the trim path to make it line up a little better. I'm just going to keep it there for this demonstration. I'm going to do the same for the other one. I'm going to duplicate the stripes and the one on the bottom, again, because I want the stripes on top. I'm going to go to my stroke. I'm going to get rid of the dashes, and now I've got striped socks. Well, first let's do a head. Make sure everything's deselected before you draw your shape. You can make the head any size or shape you want. Move its anchor point to where the bottom is. And I'm going to make it the same color as my skin. All that's left, I'm going to parent everything to the torso. So the head, I never named it. You could use your pickwhip or your drop-down menu. So if I was going to use the drop-down menu, I would just go torso. If I was going to use the pickwhip, I would just pickwhip it. It's whatever you're comfortable with working. There's just more than one way of getting things done sometimes, not all the time. So now, if I move the torso, the whole body will move with it. Same as if I rotate it or scale it. Now the beauty of this, I'm going to open up just the limbs and press the U key. There's just one keyframe for this. So if I go forward and I alter that keyframe, you'll see the character will move. You've just got to keyframe that one thing to make everything that's parented along on that limb to respond to the original one.